So one of the problems I have with the offensive line in Madden, and I've done a video on this before, I will put a link in the description, is the way the pocket forms. And I just want to zoom up on this and just take a look at this and remove football and just let's insert common sense. I'm going to remove the box and let's look at numbers 67 and 70 and say, if you were going to protect the quarterback, what would you do in this situation? To me, I would want to drop back toward the quarterback, keep my opponent in front of me, and try to create a pocket around him. Now, when we watch what Madden does in this situation, you can see immediately on the snap of the ball, this is not what happens. You can see that number 67 has moved out, number 70 has moved out, and they're both trying to engage with the defensive end. This is what Jay Music talked about in terms of not being able to read a pocket. This is what I've talked about in other videos, and of course, this is what really the main point of contention is currently in the community. Now, as we roll back, I just want you to notice, as soon as I get to the end of my break, again, I've talked about this win-loss situation when it comes to a pocket, but I just want you to notice the technique that is used here at a number 67, and to me, this solidifies all the issues with Madden's pocket. I want you to notice immediately how he attempts to block Clemens. There is never a hint of moving back. There's never a hint of keeping him in perspective in front of him, and he basically turns in a half circle from the snap of the ball. To me, this is something that any player should understand fundamentally is wrong. Now, in terms of going over on the other side, you look at what happens with number 70. To me, this is a case of an animation that plays out way too fast. At the snap of the ball, this is almost predetermined. This is very rare to see in football on a passing situation. I don't know why you would cut block someone like this unless you knew for a fact you were going to get beat out. And even then, I don't know why you would do this. You know, this is just not something I traditionally see out of passing plays, because you can get hurdled or you can get rushed to the outside very quickly and leave yourself extremely vulnerable. So, in terms of watching this pocket form, I want you to watch from my quarterback's perspective. How am I supposed to accurately assess what's going on here when I have a line that is not forming anything? And again, when we go over to the side, if you didn't know this was a passing play, I question how you would understand from just the way the linemen are reacting. Alright, so we're taking a look at this example at speed at first, and then we'll go back and assess a few situations in terms of the play. The first thing I want you to notice is actually that the linemen and tight end do not recognize on the onset of the play that my defensive end is lined up on the outside, and neither of them actually move to prevent him from getting to the quarterback. They actually both shade back to the left. Now, the problem for me comes in at this point right here when you see the lineman turn his back to the line, his chest to the quarterback, which is completely unfundamental, and then runs out to the edge almost again with that sixth sense that he has to get out to protect the quarterback. Now, when you see this happen, the real issue comes in at this point where you can look at the hands. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Look at the hands of my defensive end and realize that they're basically facing completely down the field. Now, as this interaction starts to occur, you can see that my hands of the defensive end completely shift and are actually changing about a 45-degree angle from one point to another. And this is, just the animations merging together to prevent, obviously, a free rush at the quarterback from a user-controlled player. Now, to be honest, I don't mind this animation if it had been played out properly from the onset, not having to have the lineman run backwards to get to the point he needed to be. I like the fact that it's a little bit organic. You can see that both players are fighting for position and balance and speed. But again, one thing that we've seen constantly from this game is the realistic physics engine here has a propensity to allow players to go limp when contacting each other. So when the lineman hits the quarterback, you can see he basically does what you can really only describe as maybe a porpoise pose and kind of just glides into the field until he releases off the arm of the lineman. I mean, is this that big of a deal in the scheme of the play? No. But does this look terrible and something you expect out of a beta release? Yes. When we zoom out, you see what I'm trying to do here is blitz the quarterback from the linebacker position. As I go to approach the gap, I realize that it's going to be occupied by a lineman. Decide to take advantage of the distance between that lineman and the other lineman, as well as generate pressure by coming around the corner, getting an angle on the quarterback, taking advantage of this space here that my defensive end has gained by rushing the quarterback on the outside. As you can see, what the game does is puts the lineman back in front of me in a very unrealistic fashion again. You can see at this point, as I approach the line of scrimmage, his back is to the quarterback, his chest is to me. I am running toward the quarterback with full speed and momentum. However, what the game does, and I do understand, I respect the fact that it does see this as his assignment, and he is going to go try to block that. But what I don't like is the fact that he has to turn around, put his chest to the quarterback, back to the line, and run to this magical point where we're going to meet in the middle. And I understand that, yes, he does have to run a shorter distance, but the speed of this is just way too fast for me for him to come back here and still have some type of mass in a physics perspective to be able to block me successfully. And again, when we talk about player position, neither player's position is really respected. As I come back here, I get shifted into him and he gets shifted over into me. So it's not even as if the game is being true to either offense or defense in this situation. Now, in terms of talking about another issue this brings up, that pressure actually forces the quarterback, I think, to scramble up out of the pocket. But one of the issues this game has is failure for linemen to hold blocks even when the quarterback is scrambling as he gets near or close to the line of scrimmage. So as the quarterback runs forward, you can see number 74 has released number 96, number 67 is releasing number 95. So now this quarterback, as he approaches the line, has to deal with not only a defensive tackle in front of him, but a defensive end behind him. And of course, as those players meet, the defensive tackle is going to win, cause a fumble, and allow the defense to recover the ball. Alright, so here we are with All Pro Football, playing this for you at speed, and then we're going to go back and really address just about every line interaction in this play and show the differences between what we have in this game and what we have on Madden 13. And that's not to say that this game does this properly all the time, but certainly this is what is consistently in this game and what really should be in Madden. So the first thing I want to talk about is from just the common sense standpoint. If you were going to protect the quarterback here, what would you be doing? Now, we saw what Madden does. We're going to look at what Madden does in a moment, but I just want to go through a few drops of the quarterback here and bring Madden back up. Now, I want you to notice the way this line is kind of straight together, how nobody's arms are out, how the linemen are contorted. And as we bring back All Pro Football, I want you to notice the contoured shape of the line. I want you to notice that my linemen all have their arms out. They're much tighter together, and they're going to be forming a pocket. Now, one of the problems we saw with Madden in the second example was how a lineman dealt with a linebacker blitzing. So I want you to notice how Barry deals with number 52, the linebacker. He strafes backwards toward the quarterback, and he controls the angle at which the linebacker is going to interact. Now, I realize some of you are going to say, well, the linebacker runs right into him. But that's not the case. See, the linebacker has to go and try to engage the quarterback, so he basically runs all the way till he can't run much more, till he runs himself out of the play, and then tries to engage with the lineman. And this is what you see a lot of times in real football. Now, I want to go up here and I want to take a look at one thing real quick, because as the quarterback scrambles, we're going to see a situation where the lineman releases and goes to pursue the quarterback. Now, I realize when I talked about in Madden how linemen really shouldn't release. But to me, there's situations where they can. And this is going to show a situation where they can, situations where they can't. 73 is going to come back and block. You see number 94 starts to push. And this is all just hand fighting. There's no real blocking going on here. It's just pushing and hand fighting. Now, when the quarterback runs across, you can see that in the screen, I have no problem with this defensive tackle basically pushing off the lineman one more time and pursuing up to try to get to the quarterback. To me, this is realistic. This is not a problem. Now, it would be a problem if we came over here and we saw William Perry do that, because as you can see from the onset of this play, William Perry is getting double-teamed the entire time. And he's actually being pushed back. He's being driven back up off the line by these two linemen, and to me, he should not have any way of releasing from a double team to pursue a quarterback. And you can see the quarterback is almost out of bounds, and this block is still being held. This is what you want to see. Now, as we go over to the other side, you're going to see how this defensive end and lineman interact. And you can see the defensive end is not as fast as the linebacker, so this lineman doesn't have to strafe nearly as far back before the interaction comes. But as you can see, these two are in a blocking technique. You can see that my lineman has his arm around the waist, arm around the shoulder. This is a situation where you're not going to be able to release. And you can see, even though the defensive end really gets leverage and starts to push back and turn the corner, as my quarterback runs out of the pocket, it really doesn't matter. Now, one of the interesting things I think here is in terms of some motion shifting and some warping. Again, I don't have a problem with those. This is a video game. Those are problems in any video game. I do like the fact that as Turner kind of clears my lineman and goes to run up the field, he turns back into him a little bit, and this allows the block to be continued. Now again, we're talking about a block being continued while my quarterback is almost 10 yards, 15 yards away. In Madden, obviously, we were having problems with blocking continuation as they hit the line of scrimmage. So I want you to just notice the fluidity and realism of this animation. As this defensive end tries to run out of the grasp of my lineman, you can tell he's being pulled back in a realistic fashion as his shoulder is being dipped to the outside, because that's where the force is being exerted on him from my lineman as he tries to fight away and get to the quarterback. I like that. I think that's very realistic. Now, another situation I want to address here is with this linebacker that we talked about earlier, because some people are going to look at this and they're going to think that this is really crappy programming, poor logic, and unrealistic. But I can tell you from having blitzed a quarterback, you can watch in real life and see little subtle things like this happen all the time. As this linebacker tries to clear my lineman, you can see he pushes off, he pursues into the pocket. Because a lot of times when you're staring at a 280-pound lineman, you're really not all that aware of what the quarterback is doing because you're trying to beat your man. So the fact that he runs into the pocket and then realizes, wait a second, the quarterback is not here, I need to turn up field, that's when he's going to get caught again by this lineman. And I have no problems with this. To me, this is extremely realistic because I've seen it happen, I've done it. So I like the fact that this is another situation where you can see there isn't a release that's occurring. This linebacker is trying to pursue my quarterback, and this lineman is steering him out in totally separate animations from the lineman behind him and preventing him from getting free release and running to pursue the quarterback. Now, two funny situations here that I want to bring up that to me just show a different level of thought process in terms of quarterback protection in this game. I want you to just notice for a second that my quarterback up here is about to run out of bounds. And then we're going to go back and take a look at exactly what occurs, because this linebacker stops pursuing, because obviously there's a situation in this game where he is programmed that when the play is X number of yards away, you can just stop pursuing, because clearly, barring some type of miracle, he's not going to be in a position to tackle this quarterback. However, still continues to block. I want you to notice that number 61 cuts up in front of him and then continues to block, even though the linebacker had zero inclination that he was going to pursue up the field. So it's almost the reverse of what we saw in Madden, where this is over-committing of blocking, where in Madden we didn't see any of that commitment at all. Now, the other situation I want to talk about comes over here with William Perry. We showed this before, but I just want you to notice, as this play ends, you can see my linemen release the block, straighten their backs up, and kind of give up. Because, again, this is a situation where the play is over. Yet, Perry loses his balance because he's pushing back against these men, and when they kind of relax from that, all his force still continues in this animation, and he actually starts to lose his balance and topple over. So to me, again, these are very realistic, kind of comical situations to look at, but completely far and away different from what we see in Madden. Now, I know this was a long video. I appreciate you guys sticking through it. I will be back in the week with more, and I would like to see the comments you guys have on this. And again, I thank you guys for checking this out.